we literally got scammed. Alright guys, we are back at the hotel now to tell you the story about what happened. So, as we were walking to the temple, Wat Po, a local approached us. So this guy was super nice to us, super friendly, and he told us that on Fridays, Wat Po is closed to foreigners or any tourists until 3 p.m. So at the time it was like 12:30 maybe? So he was like, let me give you a few suggestions on what you can do in the meantime while you wait till it's 3 p.m. and you can go in. So he took out a piece of paper and his pen and he started writing down, you should go to the temple of
the sitting Buddha.
The sitting Buddha.
Wat Devarat.
And then after that, you go to
the standing Buddha, Wat In. And then last thing, he's like, come back to Wat Po.
This one, and here, can come back here.
The reclining Buddha. And then unsuspiciously, he inserted and he's like, oh, by the way, did you read the news or watch the TV? We were like, no, what's going on? He was like, do you not know? Like, they have a silk factory outlet that not only sell to local Thai people, but there's a special promotion only 7 days this year that they open it up to foreigner, to tourists, and it's a great deal. You should check it out.
For Thai factory, they have for the promotion, for the Thai fashion, for the Thai silk.
Then Hui asked like, oh, what is a good price to take like a tuk-tuk to these places? Because we were already walking to opposite direction of where he suggested us to go. So we're like, that's kind of far. So then he was like saying the local way to negotiate with a tuk-tuk is you tell them all the places you want to go to and then you pay him at the end.
Stop, wait, yeah. But you pay the in, yeah?
So basically he'll wait for you at each location. And then he was like, yeah, so either he's like somewhere between 200 to 300 for all these 4 stops that he mentioned. And we're like, whoa, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, because before that, I would try to negotiate with the tuk-tuk driver twice. And each time they said $300 from one place to the other. And this time we get 4 stops for the price of 200. For 200. So we're like, wow, this is really good.
And we're like, oh, that's a good deal. And then Hui was like, oh, figure out like which, because we saw some tuk-tuks passing by. And then so we tried to call one down. And then so I told the guy, I was like, hey, maybe you can help us negotiate and get like the lower price. So then the guy talked to the tuk-tuk driver and was like, hey, go to these 4 places, okay? And he's like 200 baht. And then the tuk-tuk driver just like right away, he was like, okay.
Factory tourist, maybe 60 baht.
200 baht. So we were like, oh, that was like really easy, right? So then we get in to the tuk-tuk and he takes us to the first location. And we're like, okay, this is cool. Like, this is great. The tuk-tuk driver like led us to where you need to buy the ticket. And then he waited there. And then he escorted us to like where the other Buddha was. We're like, okay, this guy's really nice. You know, like he's helping us out. And then after we finished, he was also asking like, do you need to use the restroom? And then we're like, no. So then he walks us back to the tuk-tuk. We get into the tuk-tuk and then he goes, oh, I need to go to the toilet. And we're like, okay. So we just waited in the tuk-tuk. And right next to the tuk-tuk, there was this guy. And then this guy starts making conversation. He was mostly talking to Hui because I'm an introvert. So I really don't like to talk to people. I don't like making conversation. So Hui was mostly talking to him.
And then he started telling me like his life story, how he worked as a lawyer in New York. And we're not the type of people that judge people by their appearance. But like he looked a little bit far away from being a lawyer, to be honest with you.
This is gonna sound really mean, but I literally thought that he was a tuk-tuk driver waiting for like a tourist or something like that. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, but he spoke fluent English and then like he asked us where we're from and we said we're from Seattle and all that. So anyway, like we talked for like a good 5 minutes because our tuk-tuk driver had to use the toilet, right? And then he goes, by the way, did you read the news? I'm like, what news? He's like, did you hear about the silk outlet? And I'm like, yeah, like the local guy that we first met told us about that. And then he goes, yeah, did you know that Thailand has the best silk and that like the Armani factory is in Thailand and then like in the state it would cost like $2,000 for a custom made suit.
Basically it was like, I'm a lawyer, so obviously I wear a lot of suits. And he's like, usually a suit in the US costs about $2,500. And he's like, it's literally the same material that they use in the US, but it's cheaper here. They usually only make it for Thai people. Like foreigners are not allowed allowed in there. Today is the last day that you can go and get a discount. You can buy 2 and get 1 free.
Yep.
And we're like, okay, this seems pretty cool.
Yeah,
even though like, oh, we asked like, oh, how much would it be? And he's like, oh, we were trying to guess who. He guessed like 200. And then he's like, oh no, it's higher. Yeah, like 500. And we're like, whoa, that's kind of pricey.
Yep.
Especially since Hui just made a suit in Hoi An in Vietnam
for
$130. So we're like, okay. We weren't that interested to begin with, but we were like, okay, we're just gonna go check it out. So this guy basically was hyping it up. He was saying he's a lawyer from Buffalo, New York, and that he was waiting at the temple for his mom who's visiting his brother who is a monk at the temple.
Yeah, and then the tuk-tuk driver came out and he was like, okay, what's the next stop? And we're like, okay, Silk Outlet.
Yeah.
And then he took us, like, drive around the city to the Silk Outlet. Yeah, when we heard outlet, we thought like a factory, like a huge mall with different vendors.
Or like a big strip mall with like different stores or something like that. Yeah.
He just dropped us off
like a tailor shop.
Like a tailor shop at
basically.
the corner of this one random street, and I'm like, that's it, this is the outlet. And the moment we came in, the sales guy was like trying to do the whole pitch, you know, like, oh, we got the like best silk, like here's a catalog and lets me demonstrate that this is a good silk. And he started burning he
was like, oh, it's made from sheep's hair. He's like, when I burn this, you'll know because it smells like hair. And then me and we are like, we don't know any better. Like,
and then he started talking about like, oh, I have a brother in Seattle, which is kind of weird because it's like, how did he know that we're from Seattle to begin with?
At first, like, I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, oh, what a coincidence. You know someone in Seattle. And I was like, oh, we're from Seattle. He was like, oh, being very friendly and like trying to tell us what his brother is doing, but he really couldn't describe what his brother was doing.
Anyway, so we were sitting there for a good 20 minutes. The guy tried to sell us like the custom made suits and a dress for her, $500 a piece, and we're like, yeah, no, we can't afford like
so he started out at $700 actually. And then I was like, no, there's no way we want anything $700. I was like, is there anything cheaper?
He go to $380.
Yeah,
right?
so in the end I was like, oh, the only thing I would be interested in is maybe a coat. And he was like, okay, I can go down to $380. And I was like, oh, that's still too expensive. And then I was like, we're not looking to spend this much money, it's out of our budget. And he's like, oh, okay, hang on, let me calculate again.
And he's like, oh, I can maybe ask my boss to lower to $220.
He was like, well, how much are you willing to spend? And I was like, I'm not willing to spend anything more than $200. And then so I'm googling like how much do actual like cashmere coats cost, and then Hui, I guess, had a gut feeling.
Yep. So I didn't feel right at that time, so I started opening up Google Map, right, because this is a silk outlet, so technically if it's really good, people would leave a lot of good review.
Yeah.
And then I'll put on the screen right here. That place has tons of 1-star review, and everyone said scam, 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 scammer, run away from them. And like they described the exact situation that we were in. And then at that time, Audrey didn't know that I saw all of that, and I'm just like, no, we're not feeling it. Like, we don't want to buy it. We just gotta leave.
He was kind of showing me like bad reviews, you know, but like he couldn't fully say anything in front of the guy. So then he was just like, we're gonna think about it. We're gonna come back later. So from that moment on, I was like, oh my gosh, we literally got scammed. And I was like so mad about it because usually I do so much research on our trips to prevent things like this from happening, but for Thailand I just didn't. I really thought that guy that ran into us was being very genuine, and he was trying to be helpful because his first approach thing was, hey, watch your bags, okay, because this area there's a lot of pickpockets. He's like, yesterday this German guy got his phone, his wallet stolen because he left his bag behind him, so he told us to put our bags to the front. So I was like, oh, that's so nice of him. Yeah, that's part of the whole scamming process, is that they speak fluent English, try to be friendly to you. They'll mention things like, is this your first time in Thailand? Are you on your honeymoon?
The biggest red flag, like this is afterward where we read a bunch of other websites that called us out, is that they would say like the Grand Palace or like this attraction is closed for the next 2-3 hours.
Yep.
We can confirm nothing closed here.
We looked it up. It doesn't close.
So then once we found out, the tuk-tuk driver, I think he was just part of the scheme, right? He taking us to all these places. We were supposed to go to 2 more temples, and we're like, no, let's just took us to Wat Po, the very first temple, which is our very last stop, and then at that point we just say, you know, bye to him.
Yeah, we didn't go to all the temples that were supposed to be on the list because also those temples weren't on our list to begin with, we would just be spending money or tickets on these places that we didn't really want to go to. So yeah.
So at the end, we ended up spending 220 baht on the tuk-tuk ride, spent 100 baht at the very first temple. That was like the unnecessary spending that we didn't plan for.
Right. And thank God that we did not buy anything from the silk outlet.
Yep.
But anyways, we just wanted to share this information because I watched a bunch of Thailand vlogs, Bangkok vlogs, and I did not see anybody mention about this, and I feel like this is something that would be very helpful. Sorry if it was pretty long, but this is just so that you know, like, watch out for the cues, I guess.
Yep.
Another thing they said is if they say that they're a student practicing English, that's also another red flag.
And then, you know, like a lot of people are saying that, like, oh, you can take, like, pretend to take a selfie with them and politely say no to whatever they offer and then report them to Thailand has a tourist police.
Yeah. We did not do that. We didn't know that that was a thing actually until we read about all of this after it happened. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video regardless, but we're gonna end this one here and start up a new one tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and hit that subscribe button. And last but not least, don't forget to keep winning at life.
See you next video.
Bye.